There's a moment it comes quietly. You sit alone in your room, no sound but the hum of your fan, and you think, how did I become the one left behind? She told you, you're everything I've ever wanted. Then she left. No explanation, no apology, just vanished. You listened to her cry about him, the way he cheated, the way he lied. You held her when she shook with tears, and you thought maybe, just maybe, she'd finally see you. She went back to him. Again. You texted something honest, vulnerable, something it took you 3 days to build the courage to say. She left you on scene, and that's silence. It didn't just sting, it rewrote how you see yourself. They say nice guys finish last, but no one tells you what that actually feels like. It feels like watching someone fall for the chaos you saved them from. It feels like becoming invisible the moment you stop entertaining their fantasy. It feels like asking, what did I do wrong, and getting no answer. She told you she wasn't ready for a relationship. A month later, she's holding hands with someone else, someone who doesn't know her favourite book, someone who didn't stay up for her breakdowns, someone who didn't earn it. And you're left asking a question you're ashamed to say out loud. Was I only valuable when I was suffering for her? This pain, this quiet, unseen ache, it doesn't scream, it doesn't rage, it just lingers. You carry it into dates, into silence, into yourself. And maybe no one else knows, but I do. This isn't about blame or bitterness. This is about the wound no one talks about. The invisible fracture behind the jokes, the memes, the sarcasm, because there's a hidden pain in men today, one that can't be healed by getting jacked, making money, or reading another thread on Frame. It's deeper, older, quieter, and today, we're going there. You don't even tell your closest friends anymore. You've learned to shrug, to laugh, to say it is what it is. But deep down, you remember. You remember how it felt to send that text, the one where you finally opened up. You spent hours drafting it, rewriting, deleting, rewriting again. Just a simple message. Hey, I know we don't talk like that, but I just wanted to say, you've been on my mind. She saw it. She left you on scene. 3 days, nothing. Then she posted a picture with another guy. Not even a new one, the same one she swore she was done with. You've been the man who stayed up till 2 a.m, listening to her pain, her father wounds, her fears of abandonment. You said all the right things, held space, gave comfort, and deep down you weren't just being kind, you were hoping that maybe if you were there when she was down, she'd be there when you finally stood tall. But the moment she healed just enough to feel desire again, she ran, and she didn't look back. You've heard them all. You're the kind of guy I should want. You're what I need, but you're perfect. I'm just not ready. And then she fell for the guy who didn't text back, not because you lacked something, but because you didn't create the chaos she mistook for chemistry. Let's talk about that moment. You're lying in bed beside her. You just made love. She's curled up, head on your chest. And in that silence you think, maybe this is it. Maybe she sees me now. You feel her heart slow, her breathing soften, and for a split second it feels real. But the next day she's distant, cold. Her texts become shorter, her voice loses warmth, and eventually she says, I think we moved too fast. She doesn't say, you made me feel too safe. You saw through the mask I wear. You weren't a project, and I only know how to love men I can fix. She doesn't say that. She just fades. And you're left with a question that eats you from the inside. Why does love feel like punishment when I do it right? You felt the shift. At first she was all in, quick replies, inside jokes, touches on your arm. You were the center of her world. Then one day she pulls away, not with anger, not with cruelty, just apathy. She's busy. She needs time. She doesn't want to hurt you, but she already has. And the worst part, you still defend her. You tell your friend she's going through something. You convince yourself, if I give her space, maybe she'll come back. You wait. You watch her stories. She looks happy, alive, wearing the dress you told her she looked beautiful in now in someone else's passenger seat. You feel sick, but you don't unfollow. You don't block, because a part of you still hopes. Let's go deeper. You met someone new. You were cautious this time, slower, more grounded. You didn't rush it, you didn't overshare, you played it cool and it worked. You went on dates, laughed, built something. Then she told you, you're not like the others. And just when you let your guard down, she disappeared. No warning, no closure. She ghosted you like it was nothing. You wonder if it was you. Did you say too much? Too little? Was it your clothes, your past? But the truth, there was nothing wrong with you. She just got what she needed, then moved on, and no one talks about what that does to a man. Because you weren't trying to win her. You were trying to connect. You weren't faking it. You were honest, real, present, and that's exactly what scared her. You've held her hair while she puked from drinking too much, tucked her into bed, got her water, charged her phone, and the next morning she kissed you on the cheek, then texted him. You gave her your calm. She ran to his chaos. You listened, waited, respected, and she said there was no spark. You know what hurts the most? It's not the rejection. It's that being genuine, really genuine, feels like a liability now. You begin to wonder, do I have to pretend to care less? To be loved more? Do I have to become colder? Just to be taken seriously? Is my emotional presence a turn-off and no one gives you a real answer? Because the world doesn't see the ways men bleed. You learned early, don't overthink. Don't feel too much. Don't show that you care more than she does. And so now you joke. You post memes. You play aloof. But inside you're grieving the death of a self you never got to be. You carry these moments like quiet bricks. Every disappointment, every vanishing act, every I'm not ready. You don't lash out. You don't cry in public. You just stop trusting. You start to think, maybe love isn't for men like me. Maybe peace is boring. Maybe kindness just isn't sexy. You never say it aloud, but you feel it in your chest every time she laughs harder at his jokes than yours, every time she walks past you at a party glowing in someone else's orbit, and you wonder if you ever really had a chance, or if you were just a mirror she used to heal before stepping into the life she built without you. That's the wound. The one no one talks about. But now we will. You thought it was something you did. You replayed the texts, re-examined your tone. Did you come off too soft, too eager? Was your eye contact wrong? Did your trauma make you unlovable? But here's the truth. It wasn't your tone. It wasn't your timing. It wasn't your clothes, your cologne, your job title. It was the invisible forces you were never taught to see. Let's start with this, Anima and Animus the mirror. We mistake for love. Carl Jung once said that we don't fall in love with a person. We fall in love with our image of them, our projection. She wasn't falling in love with you. She was falling in love with the version of herself she felt around you. Maybe you made her feel safe. Maybe you made her feel adored. Maybe you reminded her of a father who never gave affection, so she clung to you as a second chance. But then it got real. She started to feel seen, and that terrified her. Because now the mask didn't work anymore. Now you weren't just an idea, you were a mirror. And mirrors are uncomfortable when we're not ready to look. So she left, not because you lacked value, but because you saw too much. Now let's talk about something colder. Something you felt but didn't have the words for. Hypergamy and the algorithmic coldness of modern dating. 80% of women on dating apps match with the top 20% of men. Not the kindest, not the most emotionally intelligent, the most visible, the most desirable by metrics, height, status, social proof. You gave her deep eye contact. He had a blue check mark. You gave her emotional safety. He had a six-pack and a yacht party invite. And in a world of infinite scroll, who do you think wins dating apps don't reward kindness? They reward dominance. The algorithm doesn't care that you stayed up with her through panic attacks. It doesn't care that you remember her childhood stories. It only cares that someone else already liked her picture, that he has more followers, that he's a 10. So you, the one who saw her as sacred, get ghosted for the guy who saw her as a trophy. And here's the deeper layer emotional capitalism love as transaction. In this culture, connection is currency, affection is traded, attention is sold, a like is a coin, a compliment is credit. Who gives the most gets drained the fastest. You gave too much too soon. She didn't say thank you, she said clingy. Because modern dating doesn't train people to bond. It trains people to consume. So you, the emotional provider, are seen not as a gift, but as a resource. Until you're depleted. Then she moves on. You start to notice the pattern. You listen. He ignores. She chases him. You open up. He plays games. She stays with him. You ask what she wants. He tells her what she wants. She chooses him. And the thought creeps in, is love just manipulation with a pretty face? But before you fall into despair, pause. There's something deeper than manipulation here. Survival and shadow, why she leaves the one who cares. In Jungian psychology, the shadow is the part of ourselves we reject, the part we don't want to admit lives in us. Many modern women, just like modern men, carry deep wounds. They were abandoned, gaslit, lied to, touched too early, loved too conditionally. They built armor. They chased attention to feel worth. They learned how to survive, not how to connect. So when you show up open, honest, warm, you don't awaken her trust. You awaken her terror. Because intimacy is not soft for the wounded. It is violent. It reminds her of all the times she let someone close and paid the price. And so she self-sabotages. She pushes you away. Not because you're too much, but because you were the first man who didn't want to use her, and she didn't know how to receive that. This isn't to romanticize pain. You're not her therapist. You're not a rehabilitation center. But understanding this gives you power. Because once you see her fear, her projections, her shadows, you stop internalizing the rejection. It wasn't about you. It was about what you represented. Safety, intimacy, depth. And to a culture addicted to dopamine and speed that feels like death. The fantasy versus the father. A woman will often choose between two men, one who makes her feel alive, and one who makes her feel safe. If she hasn't healed, she'll pick alive every time, because she's still chasing the chaos that made her feel visible in childhood, still trying to fix the unavailable man to finally be enough for him. So you who listened, held, stayed were never boring. You were simply not broken enough to fix. This is why so many good men lose. Because you're not in a romance, you're in a trauma reenactment. She's not loving you. She's loving the version of herself that keeps surviving. You don't fit her story of pain, so she leaves. But here's the paradox: the men who don't chase often win, not because they're cruel, not because they play games, but because they're sovereign. They don't need her validation. They don't orbit her moods. They don't offer emotional intimacy like a service. And in that detachment, something primal is awakened. She feels the gap. She feels the mystery. She projects her value onto him because he isn't trying to prove his. Meanwhile, you, the one who shows up, who reassures, become the known. And what is known is often taken for granted. This is not fair. This is not just. But it is real. And only by seeing it clearly can you reclaim your place in this system. Not by becoming him, not by numbing out, but by seeing through the illusion and choosing your own way through it. So now you know. It wasn't your lack of charm, it wasn't your height, it wasn't your softness, it was projection, algorithm, scar tissue. It was a culture that has forgotten how to love and remembers only how to win. But now you remember. And when a man sees clearly, he becomes dangerous not to others, but to the illusions that once ruled him. You gave everything, not in a loud way, not in the way that posts selfies and captions it with her. You gave in the quiet, unseen moments. You remembered her birthday before Facebook reminded you. You noticed when her voice changed, when the cheer cracked beneath the tone. You brought her soup when she was sick, not to earn points, not to win her over, but because you cared. And what did you get? A thank you, followed by 3 days of silence. She said you were sweet, then flirted with the guy who joked about her weight. She cried in your arms about the man who broke her, then went back to him. You stayed through her breakdown. She left during yours. You want to believe there's justice in love, that effort is rewarded, that honesty matters, that loyalty means something. But deep down you've seen the truth. She doesn't fall for the man who holds her. She falls for the man who makes her chase. You watched her post cryptic quotes about healing while lying in the bed of the same man who hurt her. You watched her post, "I just want something real," while ignoring the message you sent 3 days ago. You watched her say, "I'm done with games," while playing one with you. And it broke something in you. Not because she left, but because she looked you in the eyes, told you she wanted love, and then ran when you gave it. You're not mad that she chose him. You're mad that you saw her. You saw her softness, her light, her ache to be understood. You saw the little girl behind the makeup, the one who just wanted to feel safe, and she looked at you and said, "No." So now you don't trust your instincts. You meet someone new, and instead of being excited, you wait. Wait for the change in tone. Wait for the ghosting. Wait for the moment you go from king to placeholder. You're not cold. You're not distant. You're just tired of handing your heart to people who don't know how to hold it. And yet, you still hope. But hope is a dangerous thing when you've been broken gently. There was no betrayal, no screaming match, no lie, just a slow fade. Just, I need time. Just, I'm not sure what I want right now. Just, you're amazing. I'm just not ready. But a week later, she's in someone else's story, laughing, spinning in his hoodie. And you sit there, watching it all. Not raging, not crying, just quiet. That's the part no one sees. The quiet grief of men who gave their best and got silence in return. You were there, every time, when she needed reassurance, when she was scared, when her ex texted her, "I miss you," and she didn't know what to do. You were the lighthouse, but when your storm came, she sailed away. Now you understand love in this world isn't about who's there when it matters. It's about who triggers the most dopamine. It's not a bond, it's a high. And once you stop providing the rush, you're replaced. But you keep showing up, because something in you refuses to give up on love. Even if the world keeps telling you it's not for men like you, you still believe, even with scars, even with silence, even with sleepless nights, you still believe. But belief doesn't make the pain less real. The ache is still there. The memory of watching her pull away while you were planning a future. The taste of the words you wanted to say but held back because you didn't want to scare her off. The ring you never bought. The message you never sent. The goodbye you never got. And maybe the worst part is that you never got to tell her. Never got to say, "I saw you. I wanted you. I was ready to love you, not as a fantasy, but as a real person." But she didn't want to be seen. She wanted to be chased, to be desired, not understood. And you understood too well. So now you sit with it. The silence, the ache, the questions. Was I ever enough? Was she ever real? Is there anyone out there who sees what I sees and wants to stay? And maybe there is. But for now, you sit in the rubble of what you once believed love was. Not with bitterness, but with clarity. Because now you know what it cost, and what it never gave back. He's not angry. He's not numb. He's just done pretending it didn't hurt. That's where you are now. Not broken, not weak. Just awake. You didn't heal. You adapted. You buried it. You wore the mask. You told yourself it didn't matter. And in some ways that worked. You stopped texting first. You stopped writing long replies. You stopped being available. They called it having boundaries. But deep down it wasn't boundaries. It was defense. Because now you expect the ghosting. You predict the indifference. You assume that affection is bait, not a bond. You laugh when she says, "I'm not like the others," because now you know they all say that, until they leave the same way. You started changing. Not loudly. Quietly. Subtly. You began mocking your own softness. You stopped speaking about emotions. You started telling yourself feelings are for simps. Love is weakness. Don't care too much or you'll lose again. And now you've become the man you never wanted to be. Cold, cautious, unreachable. Not because you enjoy it, but because you're tired of bleeding in silence. You used to believe in connection. Now you believe in control. You used to hope someone would choose you. Now you make sure you're the one who leaves first. She says she likes you. You test her. You flirt, then pull back. You disappear for a few hours just to see if she notices. And if she doesn't, you write her off. Not because you're cruel, but because you've seen this movie before and you refuse to be the fool again. Bitterness creeps in like mould. You see a couple laughing at a cafe. You scoff. You hear her say, "I want something real," and you roll your eyes. You join comment threads where men type, "All women care about is status. They only love men who treat them like shit." Hypergamy is real. Don't invest emotionally, just enjoy the game. And a part of you nods, because it finally makes sense. But another part of you, the quiet one deep inside, feels sick. Because you know this rage isn't truth. It's grief dressed as strength. You push away the woman who actually sees you, the one who asks you questions no one else does, the one who waits for you to open up without pressure, the one who doesn't play games, but you don't believe her, because she's too late. You've already built the walls, you've already closed the gates, you've already decided that vulnerability equals pain. And this is where most men get stuck, right here, in the grey space between pain and power, where you're not bitter enough to truly not care, but not hopeful enough to try again. So you settle. You swipe for dopamine, you hook up to feel wanted, you flirt for validation, not intimacy. You joke about love like it's a scam. You become that guy in the group chat, the one who always mocks emotions. But when you're alone, you still remember the messages you never got, the touch that meant something, the goodbye you didn't deserve. And here's the truth. This version of you, it isn't the real you. It's the armour you built to survive a war you didn't start. You weren't born cold. You weren't born distrusting. You weren't born thinking love was weakness. The world taught you that. She taught you that. They taught you that. And now, you have a choice. Because the answer isn't to become the villain. The answer is to stop being the victim. To stop waiting for someone to come heal you. To stop needing someone to see your worth. To stop blaming women for what your unhealed self allowed over and over again. You're not weak for wanting love. You're not naive for believing in intimacy. But you become foolish the moment you let pain define your principles. That bitterness. It will cost you more than the heartbreak ever did. Somewhere out there's a man just like you, still raw, still hopeful, still open. But if he follows this same path, he'll end up with money muscles and a mouthful of sarcasm, but no one who truly knows his soul. He'll end up alone, not by rejection, but by his own refusal to feel again. And maybe you're already on that path. Maybe you already stopped writing poetry, stopped calling your mum, stopped saying I miss you to your brothers, because now you only speak in sarcasm. You only show love in jokes. You only feel when no one is looking. But what if that pain, the one you buried, denied, mocked, was the very portal back to yourself, not the soft self, not the broken boy, but the man who can hold his own depth without apologizing for it? So here's the shift. You don't need to become colder. You need to become clearer. You don't need to stop caring. You need to stop giving that care to people who cannot hold it. You don't need to join the rage. You need to reclaim your discernment. That doesn't mean you trust blindly. It means you stop expecting someone else to validate what you already know is real inside you. You stop blaming women for what they weren't able to receive. You stop blaming yourself for what you gave out of love. You stop giving your power to the past. Because a man who doesn't heal becomes a ghost of who he could have been. But a man who does, he becomes untouchable. Not because he's numb, but because he's whole. She didn't break you. She introduced you to your wound. You thought her absence ruined you, but it revealed the part of you that still begged to be seen. That boy who thought love was earned through loyalty. That man who thought being good would be enough. He died. But what was born was something far greater, not louder, not colder, clearer. You stopped checking who watched your stories. You started writing your own. You stopped trying to be the one she'd finally choose. You became the one who chooses not from scarcity, but from wholeness. You don't chase anymore, not because you're bitter, but because you're centered. There is a man inside you who never needed to be validated. He doesn't care about likes. He doesn't crave soft lies. He doesn't fear silence. He's the one who rises at 500 a.m. not to post it, but because it's the rhythm of his becoming. He's the one who holds his own chaos with stillness, who remembers his mother's pain, his father's absences, and still decides to build a better bloodline. They said you were too emotional, but now your emotions are your compass. They said you were too intense, but now your intensity is your edge. They said you feel too much, but now you know, feeling deeply is not a flaw. It is power with discipline. Let them mock it. Let them scroll past it. Let them call it cringe. They haven't been to hell yet. You have, and you came back with vision. You no longer need her to text back. You no longer need to prove your worth, because you're not in the game anymore. You're building a kingdom, and from that place, you lead. The man who once begged. Now he walks in silence, not because he's cold, but because he's whole. He listens to intuition more than approval. He creates instead of performs. He speaks truth even if his voice shakes. You used to chase approval. Now you build direction. You used to need a muse. Now you move with mission. Here's what they don't tell you. Healing isn't loud. It doesn't come with fireworks. It comes on a quiet morning when you make coffee for yourself and don't ache for anyone to notice. It comes when you look in the mirror and feel peace. Not because someone chose you, but because you stopped abandoning yourself. And love it will come. Not when you're trying to prove, but when your presence is no longer for sale. She'll find you, and she'll feel the difference. You won't need to explain yourself. You won't need to convince her. She'll know, because she's done the work too, and until then, you lead. Build what you said you would. Become the man your younger self needed. Love with clarity. Leave with dignity. Return to silence like it's sacred. Don't let bitterness steal your soul. You are not what she couldn't hold. You are what she couldn't yet recognize, and that's not your burden to carry. So here's your call. Not to rage, not to retreat, not to perform, but to rise. As a man who has felt pain and chose not to become it. As a man who walks forward not because he was never hurt, but because he no longer identifies with the wound. Comment not to be seen, but to speak what's been buried. Speak for the nights you stayed silent. Speak for the boy who wasn't chosen. Speak for the man who is rising right now in the dark. We're here. We see you, and you're not alone anymore.